tell me if I press this, it'll work? All right. Well, this certainly is a bittersweet moment, I think we'd all agree. Sweet for Dorothy and bitter for us, the way I look at it. She gets to go out and do all the things she wants to do, and we got to figure out how we're going to survive around here for the next 40 years or so. I was thinking what I would do was bring a sign that said, repent, the end is at hand. That seemed to be pretty much my take on the situation here. I think the end of the civilized world as we know it is upon us. So, when the end of the civilized world is upon us, that's when they call on me. So, clearly. Well, you know, one of the questions is, how long has Dorothy worked here, you know? And first of all, I want to say it is not true. I've heard this rumor here tonight that Dorothy put Robert E. Lee on the courtesy list. And don't go back that far. But it goes back to, according to our records, June 3rd, 1952. All right, June 3rd, 1952. And what I didn't realize was that she started working here with her mother, Frances Helms. Well, you're here somewhere. You're also second from the left there in this picture taken in I think the picture was taken in 1955. And so she started as a casino checker. There's a title with legs, a job title with legs. That may come around again, huh? Go. And so I take it that was part-time. I guess the first boss would be Chuck Bremaker, right? All right. Secretary Chuck Bremaker. That would have been in 1954. You know, I noticed something else in 1954. Those Briar chats are always good for information. I'm quoting, let's see, the Briar chats from 1954. Dorothy Helms returned to her duties as Mr. Bremaker, her duties to Mr. Bremaker, minus her appendix, which she left in the Oxford Hospital. All right? That apparently happened in 1954. So as in the current title of executive secretary, that goes back to Mr. Holtzman's name, Richard Holtzman, Dick Holtzman here in the center, who I happen to know Dorothy has stayed very close with. The Holtzman family was here this summer. Startling experience. There is a Dick Holtzman Jr. who has that face. I don't know if you had any chance to meet the Dick Holtzman Jr., but it was eerie how he came back. Anyway, about the late 50s here, 1956, around that period, 1960, Dorothy worked for Dick Holtzman. Those of you in the golf club recognize that Plaza Bowl right there, that trophy. We have it out in the golf club right now. And then after Mr. Holtzman went to Hawaii, then Wes Keenan came back. A lot of that around here. Used to be here, went away, came back. Wes Keenan's another one of those. And I think that was because he needed Dorothy as a secretary. Clearly, had gone off to somewhere, the Bahamas, and came back. And this was somebody else's retirement. Somebody named Mary Martin, apparently retiring here. I also dug out some photos of just people I've heard Dorothy talk about. I've heard these names, Joe Colburn, sitting on the sofa there, Joe Colburn. Roy Seibel over on the right there. Actually, what caught my eye was that great mural in the back there. Where was that mural? Was that where the Greenbrier shop is today? I bet Bonnie didn't save that, I have a feeling. that didn't. Went to the B&O Museum. All right. And here's somebody I heard a lot about, Marie Henderson. Now, you have to be a tour giver here. Betsy and myself owe a lot, yes, to Marie Henderson. Because she's the one who started doing the tours back here, started all those notes that have gone on for years and years. And so we're carrying on the Marie Henderson tradition. She was the social hostess when you were a social hostess. A lot of bridge, a lot of hanging out. I don't know what they're doing here at the old White Gardens here. All right, now we're getting serious here. All five O'Neill brothers at one time. There's Have a Nice Day Vincent on the right there. Hadn't smiled since, right? And Leo and John, Paul and Dennis here. comes out Sister Mary Margaret Taft. You can almost see the little halo there, you know. Well, it's okay. And now we're back in sort of a different era here in the late 50s. You know, here was the sports lineup, Garner right on the left, lip trap, Baron lip trap of the writing office, Ray White, the tennis operation, CBC Bowl, Catherine Rawls, the swimming instructor, Sam, of course, Sam Snead, and Gary Nixon, and Charlie Beveridge. Took me a while to figure that one out on the right. 1956, the sports end of things, and the popular. Boy, I can never get those popular straight. You know, they all look the same to me. Kenny Martin, left to right. Kenny Martin, Bill Sloan, Bill Walls, and Chuck Bills. Again, in the 1950s, sort of give you a spirit of the era. I found this picture of Andy Anderson. He used to do those drawings. In fact, there's a famous picture of Sam Snead that's been around for years and years that Andy Anderson did. Dorothy and I spent some time trying to find out about him. Remember what a relative was looking for. We weren't real sure what was involved here. I think I think that's his daughter Beatrice that he's doing there. Bill Worsham. Guys, Bill Worsham was the hefty guy here. Look at Bill Worsham over here and Charlie Norval on the left. Names I've heard a few times. I had to look up the other guys. Bob Baker and Bob Phillips on the right. Where'd they work?
Bob Phillips was assistant manager. His dad was Adrian Phillips, who headed HSMA, and Bob Baker was Jim Hicks.
His children are where now?
We know where some of Bill Worsham's children are, don't we? And Weymouth Walker, you know, I look at these pictures. I guess, you know, I've been here a little while, 21 years now, and it's beginning to dawn on me that these are the people who taught all of us in this room. I mean, from whom we learned what a special place this is and what it means to work. Certainly, in my case, Weymouth Walker. They also learned how to make light of things. The legendary Gardner Wright, taking care of business there out on the golf courses. Gardner is so important. He got two pictures because I think people forget what Gardner actually did was be the tennis pro. When he first came here, jumped ship from the homestead, came over here and worked as a tennis pro back in the early 50s. So Dorothy is part of a larger generation, I guess, is what I'm getting at. And I think important to us, to those of us in this room, but that generation taught a lot of us how to do things. Now, Dorothy's relation was more than just, you know, friendship. She kept files for all these people, the legendary files, you know, everybody's files. And for all of these people. And I came across this photo that what jumped to my mind was Dorothy's worst nightmare.
That's Bonnie.
May it never happen. So anyway, we've been talking about sort of the earlier years, the first 25 years, and Truman Wright, Herman Roosh, and Wes Keenan here. I just had the Wes Keenan's yellow jacket here. That I think was the main object. And this picture taken in 1973. So we're getting to sort of a transition point here, you know, when together here, boy, these guys led the Greenbrier for, 70, 80 years? Certainly all of them put to 25 years. And then Jack Lanahan comes along. The word profitability becomes a good word all of a sudden. And things start to change after that. And to get into this more recent period, I thought I would go talk to Dorothy and do a little oral history interview, you know? And so, you know, those of you who were here on staff remember a couple of weeks ago, Dorothy was sick. 2 days she was sick and didn't come to work, and this is highly unusual. So that was the time, of course, I go over there, and I find that, you know, she's pretty ill, and she's lost her voice. So, you know, this is tough. Like, how do you get an oral history interview if she lost her voice? So, turns out that she had a whole bunch of pictures. You know, Dorothy saved all those pictures over the years, you know. And so I came up with, I thought was a bright idea. I'll ask Dorothy a question, and she'll pick out a picture. Like, what was it really like to work for Bill Pitt? And, you know, they just suck it right out. Incidentally, I then said, what was it like to work for Ted Kleisner? Pulled out the same picture, you know? Bill Patrick, same picture, you know, all the way down the line. You know, so I said, well, now, Dorothy, you know, Bill had a reputation for being able to party, but he had a reputation for being able to come back and bounce back the next morning, be there at 8:30 in the morning to conduct business, you know. And she sort of smiled, and she said, oh, yeah, you know, I have one of those. And here it is. Some days Bill had a little more bounce than the other days, you know. And one of the bouncier days. So, and I must admit, I could never keep track of Bill's wives. You know, how many did he have? And when was he married to this one? And there were the kids from this one and from the other one. And you know, so we get off on this subject. And she writes me a note that Bill had an unacknowledged wife. And I remember thinking, what, an unacknowledged wife? This is a real Bill Pitt phrase if I ever heard one. And she pulls out unacknowledged wife. This apparently was before the acknowledged wives, and we have no idea. This is why she was unacknowledged right here. Now, Bill ascends to the throne when Jack Lannick, don't know who she is. Right. We're in the realm of the imagination here, folks. We have gone beyond literal truth here. All right. So go with me for a while. All right. So Jack Lannick goes up to Cleveland. Bill rises up. And, you know, we hired this new guy. We're about 1980 now. This guy from out of the system, you know, this Kleisner guy. And now, Ted approached the job with a completely different outlook than anybody else did. And, you know, Dorothy and I were sort of going over this. And she said, you know, yeah, he didn't really see his position quite as the others did. And that here is the picture he was going to put out, he and Karen were going to put out. With their first, with their, seem to go right to the heart of the matter, right? All right. Now, don't get literal. I realize this is Paul Bond, right? All right. But I didn't recognize Paul Bond. But, you know, look at the body language, look at the outfit. And, you know, Ted has been, Ted's been working his twin brother routine quite a lot lately, you know. You see the picture in the newspaper of 13 years old delivering newspapers in Chicago, you know. And who made more? Anyway, so apparently, when Ted came here to interview, he came with Fred. And for years, Bill was never really clear which one he had hired. And a picture was here they are, Ted. Who we're looking at here. So, all right. So then Ted goes away, right? And Bill's left here. He hires Chuck Inglesby. Chuck didn't make the archives. What can I say? Chuck goes away, and Steve Bartlett comes in. Well, Steve, you know, Steve was a real go-getter. You know, I mean, he was willing to do just about anything to keep the customer happy. And apparently there was one time that somebody told him to go jump in a lake, you know, and there he goes. Takes a flying leap into the indoor pool, meeting the customer's expectations beyond the customer's. Now, Gil, Patrick, and Steve Bartlett were good old friends, right? Go back a long way. Played a lot of golf together. One of the earlier games here, this is Steve and the Gil down there trying to beat him one way or another. And so Steve goes on. There we go. Goes to Broadmoor, right? Gil comes in. Now both, and I suppose everybody knows that Steve and Gil had been here early on, at the very beginning of their careers, back in the early 70s, you know, when they were just right out of school. And even then, Gil had something of a reputation as a ladies' man, and here's Gil's idea of a fun afternoon. On his day off. Gil's down there in the lower right. Gil goes on to half a dozen jobs since we've seen him last, right? And then Jack comes up, and you know, and I guess I have a lot of feelings for Jack. Watch him come up from the front desk, you know. But I don't know. I've always sort of thought Jack's developed into a great hotel manager here, but there's sort of an inner Dimoli, you know, that you can see he's holding back, you know. And I hear Dorothy, I'm saying, you know what I mean? You know, what would it be like if you really cut loose, you know? And here he is. Jack's on a tear here, you know. All right. So this is really great, you know. This is amazing what she's got in the collection here. So I said, what else have you got? What else have you got? And she said, well, you know, when Bonnie Hauser first applied for this job, she sent in a picture. And Bonnie's left there. Clearly, even then, she was trying to soften the image. And they didn't get any response. No response whatsoever. She resubmits with this one. Trying to go local here, little Daisy May with it, you know. Bill was doing the hiring, hired her right there, you know. Was he in for a surprise? What you see is not what you get. I don't know, and then Bonnie Hauser led us to Jack Horton, you know, and one thing I noticed about it, looking through all this, like Dorothy, there are no pictures of Dorothy in the archives, and there are no pictures of Jack Horton. She said, aha, but I have one of the daughters. And here we have Sharon and Mary Cole enjoying the indoor pool one day. And then I guess it was a connection at the pool that made her think of all the fun that the secretaries used to have back in the 50s, you know, to gather out there and go swimming. And so here we have Karen Stanley, Charlotte Morgan, and Dixie Bush, right? I think I'd look at Charlotte and say, boy, old demure Charlotte, you know, talk to one if things didn't go her way. So, and actually, her information went all over the place. It answered really one of the questions I've always wanted to know, which is, how do they really decide to put that bunker here? And it turns out the way they decide was treasure map. And here's Fritz over here, keeping an eye on, this is the architect of the Capitol. He made 10 different choices. No, Greenbrier is where we want to put this. That's Janet Reno's grandmother there, who was in on the decision. And now I can't be the only one who noticed this sort of northeastern Ohio connection here. Steve and Gil from the neighbors up there in Youngstown, Jack from up in that area. And so I said, well, you know, you must have found some things that these three guys have in common. Gil Patrick, Steve Barlin, and Jack Dimoli. Yes, sir. There you go. The first on the left, clearly Jack, right? And I can't recognize the knees. Actually, you notice that sign around the top on the left that says, "We are three little peanuts, all from the same shell. We hope to go to heaven, but bet we'll end up in hell." Now, I asked Dorothy about those management meetings. And what's it really like in those management meetings when they all get together? You know, she's taking shorthand. This is one that Jim Searl was running, as you can see here. You can sort of fill in who these people may be. I'm not going to touch that one. So this seems to be getting to the heart of the matter. You know, what is our management team here? As I've often said, who put the manage in Greenbrier Management? It's Dorothy Miller. But it seems to me that the critical relationship in the ongoing Greenbrier saga is the relationship between the president and the director of operations. You know, the person who works for Dorothy there. You know, right next, whatever we call that position there. Dorothy's assistant, I think is what we call it. And so. You know, she goes a long way back, you know, back to Dick Holtzman and Wes Keenan. So I said, you know, give me, again, through these photos, some insight, and this is the last, you know, photo I asked her for, some insight into the nature of the relationship between the president of the company and the director of operations. And then she came up with this one. And the president being Diane White. She quoted Jack, who says, "He plays the tune, I sing the song." All right. Thank you very much.
Bob, very well done. I guess the only question is, not only do we do the song, but in what key? So, I mean, just one of those questions. Folks, again, we are here to honor Dorothy Miller, a person that's been near and dear to many of us. I know that I can speak for Gil and Steve, who couldn't be with us this evening. The three gentlemen from Ohio, I use that term loosely, I guess. But the three people from Ohio that worked with Dorothy, that really kind of, in my opinion, allowed us many freedoms, allows the ability to really develop. We owe very much to, covered us. I can't kind of done everything for us over the years, and I really do appreciate that. I'm speaking for Gil, for Steve, and myself now, Dorothy. Thank you so much. At this time, I'd like to introduce a couple of our honored guests. First, we have Bill Pitt. Bill, would you like to come up and take over for a few seconds?
We have certainly been introduced already.
Right.
Thanks, sir.
Oh, Dorothy. Ted, everybody, thank you for letting me join you on this special night. I think I just told about 4 or 5 people that, you know, I was here a long time, and I did make a lot of hires. I made a lot of mistakes, and I hopefully made a lot of good ones. I think one of my favorite success stories is when we were desperately looking for room clerks, when we didn't have a lot of Cornell people wanting to say, you know, we want to come and run the Greenbrier, well, you got to start on the front desk and all this. So there was a guy that came in, lived somewhere up in, you know, I'm not sure where, but outside of Greenbrier County, Monroe County, and that we had this resume. And he came in, and I said, Dorothy, we got to hire this guy, I don't care what. He walks in, and I looked at his resume. I said, bring that in here fast. Let me read it, and let me, you know. And so he comes in, and I start reading this resume, as, you know, being prepared like I was. And I said, well, you know, if we're going to hire a guy, I don't care what if he can speak English. And so he, and I kept reading this thing as I'm talking to him. And I said, let's get this straight. You have a PhD, and you want to be a room clerk at Greenbrier, and you're a historian? And he said, yes, sir. And I said, what is wrong with you? And he said, I need a job. I said, well, that's good. Then we'll try to work that out. And I think one of the most successful hires that Dorothy and I ever made was Bob Conte. And I hope you'll join me in he doesn't know that I can still get him fired. But he knows he can push me to the limit, but boy, when he steps on Ted's toes, look out. You know, I'm one of my best friends here at Greenbrier, and one of my old colleagues reminds me often in the last few years that I am the oldest, I am the oldest living ex-president of the Greenbrier. This is my friend Jim Searl, whom we have enjoyed many good times and won a few battles and lost a few. I'll remind Jim that it takes me a while these days, but that I'm the only living ex-president of Greenbrier, so therefore it makes me the youngest. And I would think that Dorothy Miller might be considered the longest serving executive secretary of that, whatever department we call it now, is, and that makes her the oldest and the youngest too. So I am delighted to be here and help honor Dorothy. You know, I thought, I drove up here, it's a long ways from hurricane country up here, and I was driving up here and I thought, you know, the invitation that Ted sent out, I said, God, that place has gone to hell since I was there. I said, you know, it says, come help Dorothy Miller celebrate her 24 years of service at the Greenbrier. And I thought, God, well, it has to be at least 42. Ted screwed it up again. He's got to, you know, he transposed a few numbers, and, you know, it's got to be 42. I mean, God knows. Dorothy, I came here in 1995, 1965. 1965, at the latter part of 1965, I was 21 years old. Dorothy was here. I left here in early 1974. Dorothy was here. I came back in August of 1976, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. Dorothy was here. You know, Dorothy's been here since God, and I can't see, but I do know that the 24 years, of course, is your actuarially correct years of service. But when I think about Dorothy, Dorothy's first day at work at the Greenbrier, I was 8 years old, and in the second grade in the Tarboro, North Carolina elementary school. And that scares the shit out of me. But I did learn very early when I came that Dorothy knows everything, knows where everything is, knows about everybody, knows about the Greenbrier, and knows just about everything. And she's very discreet. But if you can tap into that resource, you might get ahead here. And I remember, I'll get back to when I came back from having been here and having known that that resource was here. When Jack Lanahan talked to me about coming back here, I said, no, I just left. I was trying to go off and learn, be in the same place and learn something that might, from outside, maybe that would help. And he said, well, you just tell us what you want, you can come back. And I said, well, I don't have any problem with what you've offered me. I mean, I don't care about that. I'm a little bit afraid of it. And he said, well, you can, do anything. I said, well, then I'll have to have Dorothy Miller in my court. And that is the truth. So I come back, and Dorothy is, I get her behind closed doors, and no, I didn't strangle her, and no, I didn't put the move on her. But I said, now let's go through this one more time, Dorothy. Let's see. The Morgans, the ones from Ronsford, the ones from Monroe County, let's see now, the Furies, there's one in upholstery, there's two or three in the kitchen, there's a crazy man on the golf course, help me out with all of that. And she needs everybody and everything, and it's just, I say that, and we didn't even touch the Honors, or the Coolers, or the O'Neills. I did know the O'Neills. But I think it takes a special person to live through all the things that she did. If you really look back at before things got silly, when it's interesting, all the people that have passed away are the ones that Dr. Conte was so reverent about. And but if you think about even Chuck Bremiker, whom I knew, and certainly Wes Keenan with his unbelievable gentility and sincerity and honesty, and just, God, what a great man. And if you look at, Weymouth Walker, my first boss here, a man of great stature to me. And if you look at, Dorothy was influential with all these people. And so, Jack Horton, I mean, what a man with a great big heart. I mean, you know, you can't get him better than that. So then I come, okay? And one of the first things that I'm told is, you know, Fritz makes another visit to me. Oh, yeah, well, now I got a big safe in my office, and, you know, you can't touch this. This is a safe downstairs. We got a safe downstairs, we got one upstairs. So Fritz comes and he gives me this big thing. You know, you got to remember the combination of this thing. Okay, Fritz, sure. So he writes it down. I said, don't give me anything in writing. I mean, I'll lose it. And so I try to learn. So, you know, I'm supposed to be into this new secret club. I mean, big time into it. And so Chuck Kaufman calls me and says, now you need to try to get in that safe. And now this is my first thing with Dorothy. I'm trying to be really cool, and I'm back, and I said, I go over there, and I said, let's see, twice that way, once that way. And I'm being really cool. And then finally I said, Dorothy, God damn it, come in here and take care of this thing for me. So that was my style. But, and she did. If you think back about Dorothy's full time here, not the 24 years, I figure if she averaged 100 days a year, she spent 10,000 plus days working in this hotel. If you figure something else, you know, that's about, let's say, 25,000 cups of Greenbrier coffee. You know. And as Dorothy approaches retirement, you know, I have a little piece of advice for her. You know, everybody says, yo, I can't do it. Arnold Brody and I were talking about it tonight. You know, Arnold's going to go before he ever faces it. But you know, it's not bad. If you learn from the past and you learn to look forward to the good things and forget the bad things, you can win. So along the lines of 10,000 days of working here and, you know, 25,000 cups of coffee, probably 5,000, 6,000 really heavy headaches, guess what? You know, I figured Dorothy, who was here before sunup, after sundown, probably consumed somewhere around 25,000 to 30,000 meals in the chatterbox. Now that's how you learn from the past, look forward to the future. You ain't got to do that anymore. And on a serious note, I'm delighted to be the first and the only ex-president of the Greenbrier to tell you how much I appreciate your loyalty to this place and your dedication to everybody that worked with you, not just the ones above you that are being ridiculed tonight, but everybody. And I consider myself lucky to know you, and I love you. God bless you.
Thank you, Bill. Dorothy, again, you know, as there's kind of a bit of a pattern established here. Everyone likes you. I mean, everyone truly, really respects what you've done for us. And we have another individual that is in our audience, Jim Searle from Richmond. And Jim is with us this evening, and another individual that has known you many years and would like to say a few words. Thank you, sir.
I didn't put my drink down. I'm just going to bring it with me. Dorothy, I was a little concerned. I talked to Jack some time ago about this evening, and he told me about some of the guest list. And as I look around the room, I thought about the people I was thinking about them tonight. I see them. I thought, Jack, how are you going to control the microphone? This could be a very dangerous evening. And he said, well, I'm just going to have Bob Conte speak. And I said, that'll make the evening go real well. And anyway, then he said to me a little earlier tonight, he said, I know you want to say a few words. And I thought, well, I haven't prepared anything, but certainly somebody hands me a microphone. I was real worried when I had to follow Bob Conte. I thought, but follow Bill Pitt, that's easy. Dorothy, you know, we've all been here a long time, and your contribution is considerably greater than the rest of ours. But you know, those of us that have been here a long time, we worry about the retirement program, and what it does for us, and will it support us in the manner we're accustomed, and so on. And I know that's been a word of yours, but I learned something tonight that I think that we can substantially support or enhance your retirement program. I learned tonight that you're writing a book. And I am confident that just in this room, there are any number of people, I've already arranged a private room upstairs for those who'd like to make contributions for certain things that you might forget about or not write about. And I am confident that will be substantial. And Francis, it may get us all home. Where are you, Francis? There you are. But I think that's the way to go, don't you? Think that'll do it? Is it true you're writing a book?
I'm working on something.
Well, I know all of you will want to contribute to that. Dorothy, thank you very much for what you've done for me, my family. You know, you were the savior for a lot of people, for a lot of things, not just those people you work for and all those things that Bob showed tonight. Even when I went away from here and only come back a week or 10 days a month, when I need something, you go to that person that's the busiest, that's there the longest, and say, Dorothy, help. Find this for me, help me. Find this, look for that, take care of that person. You always did it. There are a lot of shoes that will be needed around here to fill with just yours. So thank you very much, and may you have a long life.
Thank you, Jim. And at this time, Ted, would you like to come up, please? And Dorothy, we have a few things kind of planned. So I'll turn the microphone over to Mr. Kleisner.
Yes, as Jim pointed out, we all want to be very nice to Dorothy. She's writing this book. She mentioned me the names of some of those who are in the book already. You can assume that we all play certain roles. So, in spite of that, it's been a fun evening. Bob, you did a terrific job in not just entertaining us with your ability to spin a yarn, if you will, relative to history. I know you do that well every week of the year, but also remind us of the extraordinary history and the fabric, the tapestry that makes up the Green Bar. And if there is anyone who truly embodies, personifies, represents the fabric of loyalty, of service, of all that we think of as important to the Green Bar, it's Dorothy. And I remember vividly arriving here with a, can't remember the ages, but a kindergartner and a second grader, and Karen, and how Dorothy took care of us, and the way she would take care of guests arriving. As the greeter that she's always been here, the person who takes care of the problems, knows where all the secrets are hidden, the details were always something that Dorothy had complete control of. I was told that when I arrived that your secretary is do it all, Dorothy. If that's, that is exactly true. Dorothy could do everything. Until I asked her one day, what is CM232? And she said, well, that's the substructure. And I said, what's the substructure? And for the first time, and the only time that I've known Dorothy, she was caught off balance. She said, well, you'll have to ask Mr. Pitt about that. And that was before I was cleared on the substructure project. But through many things, first of all, I want to thank Dorothy for getting me through the first 4 years that I was here, and that took a lot. And blowing into town is, with no resort experience, from Hilton hotels, and telling Weymouth Walker I prefer to be called Mr. Kleisner, not Ted. It was a bad start. Dorothy got me through it. She explained how things ought to be and how to loosen up and be part of this wonderful family, like she has with so many people in this room. Dorothy, we're in your debt. You've been the not just part of the fabric, but perhaps the common thread that has sewn us all together. From not just the directors of operation, but all the bosses you worked for, from Dick Holtzman to Wes Keenan to Bill Pitt to myself to Chuck to Steve Kilpatrick and now Jack, to help us lead better, to give the right direction, to correct us, and you certainly did. Sometimes less than subtly, sometimes very subtly. Dorothy knew how to do it. Hard person to replace. I hope that there is in our midst today another person who will assume that role, who will do what you've done so well. We'll miss you. It is such an honor, such a privilege tonight to congratulate you on a well-deserved and hopefully an enjoyable retirement. Thanks for everything, Dorothy. We love you.
Dorothy, we have a little something for you. We know that you bought a little computer at home, but it really wasn't quite maybe something that you needed. So I have something here.
You can just imagine with all the presents Christmas Day takes very long.
So you've seen this before.
Yeah.
What did she say?
Don't throw the paper away. Don't save the paper.
Really? Oh my God.
Sitting down there on the red carpet.
Really?
I got one of your mom earlier. I was sitting with him in the chair down in the hallway. He sat there real nice.
Oh my God.
Is that the computer?
No, it's genealogy software. Yeah. Computer to go with it. She was afraid to do that.
I just don't really know the words to say how much I appreciate not only everything that Mr. Kleisner, Mr. Pitt, Mr. Dimoli, Mr. Searl, everyone has said, and I really don't deserve them. I've loved the Greenbrier. I've loved every minute working for every one of them, and I mean, I'm just overwhelmed. And now, to even have my dream of a computer and the software to work on my genealogy, you know, this is a 38-year project. of midnight to 2 a.m. And now I have time to work at it. I mean, I don't really realize I'm retired yet, so you may see me in the wee hours around here. In fact, I even refuse to clean my desk out. But, I mean, I have just learned so much from these wonderful people. And I just really appreciate having had the opportunity to work with them and to be of any help at all. And I mean, it's just been wonderful, the people I've worked with here at the hotel. Each and every one of them has contributed so much and feel like family. And I just want to see that go on. The family feeling of let's help one another to make sure that the Greenbrier remains what it's always been. Thank you.
Thank you, Dorothy.
Folks, that concludes our program, so thank you. And I believe Rod would like everyone to come over and help themselves to the buffet.